Get ready to find your recipe for a successful real estate lifestyle from America's top expert here at Greenlight REI with your host, Lance Edwards.
Well, hello everyone. Hi, this is Lance Edwards, and welcome to this edition of Greenlight REI, where we teach you the successful real estate lifestyle. And our guest speaker today on a topic that I know is going to be of interest to anyone has to do with money and about raising money. And this is about raising big money so you can go out and do even bigger deals. This whole topic is about syndication today. And our person I'm going to be interviewing, our guest speaker today, expert, is Mr. Joel Block. And I'm going to welcome him, Joel, here in a minute. First of all, I got to tell you a little bit of his credentials. And I've interviewed Joel in the past. I'm telling you, it's got great input. So whether you're syndicating now or ever thinking about syndicating or bring together private money, you really want to pay attention to Joel. He's been doing this for 25 years. He's a CEO of a hedge fund. He's done his own venture capital deals. He's out buying multifamily distressed or all kind of multifamily properties, uses syndicated funds, which basically means a pool, a group of private money investors. He's also a CPA. He's been a licensed real estate broker in California. He's been a thought leader in the crowdfunding area. He's formed a crowdfunding platform. He has his own fund called Bullseye Capital Fund, which is a real estate hedge fund that acquires distressed multifamily and commercial assets nationwide, adding value for his investors. And he also hosts a Syndication and Hedge Fund Symposium program twice each year, where he advises people how to do this. Really smart guy, very, very smart guy, but even better and more importantly, he's been in the trenches. He's doing this. He eats his own cooking, and he's really great in breaking it down into the simple ABCs. So with that, please welcome Joel Block. Joel, welcome to Greenlight REI.
Hey, Lance, how are you? I have to correct one thing, and that is I know a lot about syndication, all this stuff. I don't cook, and I don't eat my own cooking.
Fair enough.
Nobody eats my cooking.
I'll call that your one vice. How about that?
Yeah, if it doesn't go to microwave, I don't think that counts as cooking.
Well, you and I are in the same camp there, then, Joel. Well, listen, Joel. This is a multifaceted topic, and I want to start off with kind of the basics, if you don't mind. We'll kind of build from there, and also, by the way, for those of you that are watching live right now, before I get into questioning Joel, if you're live right now, and it's today is Today is Wednesday, September 25th. We're doing this live, and you're on the webinar. Here's the benefit of being live. You're going to be able to submit your questions to Joel. So if you have any questions you want to submit, the way you'll do that is through the chat box. Now, if you listen to the recording, obviously you won't be able to submit your questions, but you'll get the benefit of hearing the answers to the questions. So having said that, let's start off with some basics here, Joel. First of all, what is a syndication? What does that mean?
Well, so here's what happens. Is what a lot of people do is they'll do private money deals. And a private money deals, let's say somebody that's got some money, an investor, they want to put some money in a deal. They'll loan it to you. You'll secure it against your property. And so basically they create like a mortgage loan. But let's say you got a little bigger deal and you don't know people that have enough for the whole thing. So then you want to put 2, 3, 4 people together. That is not easy to do when you secure a mortgage. It's not easy to do at all. In fact, it's really not even advisable after a while. So a syndication is the ability to put a bunch of money into a single bank account, and each person owns a certain portion of that. And basically, it's the way that Wall Street does it. Wall Street has been doing this for 50 years or more. They're very good at it. And for people that get better at what they're doing, once you've got some experience and some practice, you've done this 3, 4, 5 times, you've done your deals, then you want to go out and get some bigger money. This is the way you get the bigger money, is by putting people's money into a pool. And that's what Wall Street is so very good at. Is what Wall Street does very well is taking an asset like an apartment building or anything else and slicing it up like a loaf of bread so that people can buy exactly as much as they want. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's really about figuring out how to get people. Somebody wants to put in 25, somebody wants to put in 75, somebody's got 110. Everybody can put in how much they want and be very happy with the outcome.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. A loaf of bread, be able to slice it, and how many slices do you want of this loaf of bread? That's really that's a great explanation, Joel. So you've mentioned apartments, and in the context of, well, I won't even limit it to real estate. What are all? Let's just talk. What are the broad uses of a syndication fund? What might they be used for?
Well, let's put it like
start
this.
setting some examples.
Yeah, real estate. All the categories of real estate. You can buy homes. Now, you don't have to buy one home. You can set up a little pool, and you can buy 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. You can do whatever you want. You can have a fund where you're rehabbing 3 houses at a time. You buy it, rehab it, sell it. The money goes back in the fund, and you keep going. And so, you can have money that does that. You can buy apartment buildings, shopping centers. You can do bigger deals. It doesn't matter what you do. Now, syndication also is like the way that they do venture capital. So when you start a new company, people will put money in, and that whole startup process is a form of syndication. When you make a film, that's a form of syndication. So anything where you're raising money is a sort of a form of syndication, and all these things are kind of related. The formulas in real estate are a little different than some of those other things, but give or take, they're all kind of related to one another.
All right, excellent. So, but we're generally talking about larger projects, not your house rehab. We talk about syndication; these are larger projects.
Let's put it like this. No, let's put it like this. There are people who like doing house rehabs, but they get better economies of scale, and they do have a better business if they could have 3 or 4 of them going on at one time. They only do one at a time because that's all they can afford to do. But what if they could do 3 or 4? Then what would happen is they could have a crew that'd be working for them all the time. They'd keep the crew busy, but they don't generally have the resources to do that, and they generally have a capital shortage that causes that problem. So you can continue to do houses, but you wouldn't do one at a time. That wouldn't probably be enough. So you'd probably do 3, 4, 5, 10 at a time. Now, keep in mind what happens is that, number one, your crew's being paid. You're probably getting some oversight fees from the deal, so you're being paid. So all of a sudden, your cash flow starts to improve, and all the struggles that you have when you're a beginner start going away when you have better money. So as you mature in your business, your money matures, everything matures, and your life's going to start getting better. But you just got to be good at the underlying, picking the properties, managing the rehabs and so forth. If you do that well, then better money is in your future.
Very good. Now, I want you to, one more, give a context to everyone. Is there an example that you can think of, either from one of your examples or maybe a client example, where their ability to be organized, and have money at the ready, they were able to, secure a great deal or do something really spectacular? Is there a single story that you could think of that you could share?
Well, I could give you 100 examples of those kinds of things. I mean, but maybe the best thing is to compare one way of doing something against another way of doing something. So let's say that people want to wholesale a property. You wholesale a property, you buy it for, let's say 500 grand, and you flip it to somebody else for 600. And I don't know how often that happens. I would imagine it doesn't happen all that often that you're making such a big margin, but it could happen. If you were to syndicate the same deal, instead of making 100 one time or every 6 months or however often that happens, I don't know how often that happens, but instead what you do, if you raise the money to buy the property, you get potentially, if you're licensed, take a brokerage fee, a mortgage fee. You're the property manager. You can take all the fees that are related to the transaction, so the deal is paying you along the way. And then when the deal sells, you get a piece of the action, or you're getting a percentage of the rents all along the way. So instead of flipping the thing and making 100, just the brokerage commission on the front end alone might be half of that amount. And then you end up keeping that thing in your portfolio, and you'd end up making, literally, I'm not kidding, Lance, probably between 5, 10, and 15 to 1 on how much you would make by wholesaling it over a couple of years. It's just the numbers. Let me just promise you that Wall Street doesn't do it this way because our way is better. They do it because their way is enormously better. And so guys that make a lot of money in real estate, who I imagine a lot of your people, they're looking at people making a lot of money. It's the reason they're making a lot of money is because they have their money under control. And if you don't have your money under control, you'll never get to the next level.
Yeah, well, I think I've heard you say this before, and I've shared it. Is that there's a value of being organized, having your money organized, because you can do so much with it and get so much better deals by being able to move quickly.
Well, think about this.
I think the key word is being organized.
So let's say that you've got a fund. Syndications and funds are similar. They're a little different, but let's just say you got a pool of money ready to go, and you go to the bargaining table, and you sit down with somebody, and you say, "Hey, listen, I like your property," and they say, "That's great. It's $1 million." And yeah, I got the money here with me today, but I'm only going to give you 800 grand. And the guy says, "How about 8 1/4, whatever it is?" And so you get what I always refer to as a readiness premium. You're going to get something for being ready. As opposed to if you say, okay, that's fine, I'll take it for $1 million, but now I got to go around for 6 months and look for the money and see what happens. And hopefully I'll come up with it. If I don't come up with it, I'm going to lose my deposit. When you're ready, people like dealing with people who are ready. In fact, I would even tell you, if you're not ready, don't even bother, because you're going to end up getting embarrassed or something's going to go wrong. So you want to get your track record, do the things that you can do yourself. But when you finally start getting ready for better money, and I think, Lance, we should talk about what better money is. That's another concept. When you get ready for better money, that's exactly the time that you start building this, because it takes a little while to get organized for this next level. And that's what we help people do, is get ready for their next level. And then we have guys that have exploded in ways that you can't imagine. I mean, guys that have made tremendous amounts of money. And I'm not talking about a living to take care of their family. I'm talking about lots and lots of money.
All right, so you've opened the door on better money. Let's go and address it right now, Joe.
Right.
When you say better money, what does that mean, better money?
So most people think about cheaper money, and it's good to get cheaper money, and this money is probably going to be priced better than what you're getting. But that's not the only factor in money. Pricing is not the only factor. You also want to think about terms. So, for example, let's say that you call your hard money lender, your private money lender, and you say, "Listen, I got a deal. I need the money wired in today." And the person says, "Gee, I'm on vacation right now. I can't help you right now." Well, that's not really a great source of money. And then you call the next one, and you call the next one, and I know guys, this is their life, is they're scrambling after their hard money lenders, so they're calling guys, and there's a few people that come through, but as deals get bigger, you may outgrow those lenders, and you may not be able to work with them. So there's all sorts of things that happen that not even related to pricing. As you get better at what you do, the cost of your capital should come down, and the quality of the capital, in other words, your discretion, your ability to make your own decisions, should go up. So you shouldn't have to wait for somebody to say to you, I don't like that deal. I need to go look at it, look it over, because whoever controls your money controls your business. They control your life. And you really want to get those lenders out of your life when you can. I'm not telling you that you don't want to start that way. And I'm not telling you that you would never go back to a lender. But when you have the equity portion of your deal, which is really the part you syndicate, is the equity part, when you have that well organized, everything else starts to fall in order. And then you start calling the shots. You're the one that tells sellers how you want to organize your deal. You start telling investors how you want to work with them. When everything about your life changes and reverses when you get your money under control.
That's excellent. All right, that's a great foundation, Joel, for all the advantages, all the reasons why to be syndicating. So you've mentioned Wall Street a couple of times. Are there requirements for a private individual to become a syndicator, or is it open to a private individual? And if the answer is yes, which I know it is, what are the requirements for them to do this?
Well, there's really no requirement to become a syndicator. I mean, there's no, you don't have to be licensed. You don't have to do anything. You have to be able to get investors to say yes and give you their money. Now, the government does put some restrictions on who can put money into these deals. In 1929, the stock market crashed. The government had to bail a lot of people out and put people on welfare. They don't like doing that. And so the government really doesn't like regular people getting involved in transactions that could be risky. The people put their money into their pensions. The pensions are professionally managed. They put them in very, very low risk things. They grow at 5% a year. But what people like to do, wealthier people, like to use this thing. It's the way that the Yale University manages their endowment. They've got a multi-billion-dollar endowment, and they say, okay, look, we're going to put 80% in things that are pretty safe, whatever, and we're going to put 20% in some alternatives. An alternative is something that doesn't list on the stock market, like a real estate, like oil and gas, like films, like venture capital. Some are more risky than others, but people work the same way. They kind of put a lot of their stuff into things that are relatively safe, but they want to put a little bit into something where they're going to go to the horse races and bet on something that's going to maybe pay off a little better than a stock or something else. And so if we can offer them, 10, 12%, that is really attractive to people, because a lot of their other stuff's only getting 4, 5, 6%. So if we can offer them a little more, that's better. You don't have to offer people 30% in order for them to get excited about it. You just, in fact, if you offer them 30%, they're probably going to think that it's not real, because it's not realistic that you can deliver somebody too much. So, you offer somebody a good return. So the government doesn't really like, us taking money from people. So they set up these rules that basically said, if you're dealing with wealthy people, those are referred to as accredited investors. Those are typically people make a couple $100 grand a year, or they have $1 million net worth. If you deal with wealthy people, we don't really care, because those people have the ability to call an attorney, call an accountant, get help. They have resources that they can do it. And if they lose their money, they can probably get the money back pretty quick. And they're going to be able to take care of themselves. They're not going to go on welfare. But if you deal with a wage earner and something goes wrong for that person, they didn't have the ability to do a thorough examination of the thing, because they don't have advisors, they don't have the money to hire advisors. These kind of people, they may have a little bit laying around, and it's not to say that they can't come in at all. You're allowed to have a couple of these non-accredited people come in, but you can't make a big business out of non-accrediteds, because the amount of dollars they have doesn't add up frequently to be enough to do a lot of the things that we want to do. So you can put a few of those people in, and you can mix them with some of your accredited people. But that's the thing that the government's concerned about. It's not us. They're concerned about the people who are putting in the money in.
Excellent. Now, I know there's all kind of different types of, talking about the government, the Security Exchange Commission. There's all kind of different funds, and I don't know if you want to dwell into this, because this is like a spider web of different programs. But I guess I'll put it this way, Joel. Is there any one particular type of offering that's the most common and most popular for someone just getting started, in terms of what the SEC, the way the SEC structures them?
Yeah, there's two. There's two that are most common. They're very similar to each other. There's just one little difference. Basically, we operate exempt from the rules. That's the most important thing you need to know. We operate exempt. So if you want to go raise money, you want to be like, let's say, put your company on the stock market. You have to register. You have to register your security or your company that you're going to be raising money with the federal government, with the state governments. Everybody in the whole country is going to have to look over your stuff, because if you're going to be taking money from their citizens, they want to know what you're doing. You need to do regular reporting. You need to tell them all the time what you're working on, and they need to keep a careful eye on you. And that's what the Securities and Exchange Commission at the federal level and all the state levels, that's what they do. They keep an eye on all these securities. Now, if you operate exempt, then you do not have to tell the government what you're doing. You do not have to make annual reports. You do not have to do anything. You have to make an initial little report to tell them this is what we just did, just so they know. But you don't have to really do anything, and it's really rather simple. But that, in exchange for that, you have to be dealing with these well-heeled people that the government knows that if something goes wrong, it's not really their problem, because these people can take care of themselves. So that's sort of the trade-off. Now, so that's called Reg D. Everything happens inside of Reg D, which is this exemption from securities. Now, inside of that, there's two different ways you can do it. You got the old rules and you got the new rules. The old rules say no advertising, can't advertise. You can just talk to people privately, and you can, go to your friends, and you can go to the country club or wherever you hang out or whatever you do, and you can get people to invest. But you can't go on TV, you can't send out bulk emails, you can't go on the radio, you can't do seminars and pitch your your deal. You got to be very careful about this. This is called general solicitation. You can't do that. But you're allowed to take, these wealthier people, and you're allowed to take a few of the non-accrediteds into your deal with you, just a few. Now, the other alternative is we have some new rules, and they said under the new rules, you can advertise. You can go get, you can put advertisements on TV, radio, you can do seminars, you can do all kinds of stuff, but you're not allowed to take the non-accrediteds. So you have your choice. Do you want to take accrediteds, or do you want to not take accrediteds, or do you want to take only accrediteds, which is the advertising one, or do you want to take a few non-accrediteds too? If you do, then you can't advertise. It's a little subtle. It's not really critical for people to master that right here at this moment. In our symposium program, we kind of go through this in more detail, and when we help people build funds based on who their databases are and based on who the people are they know, we advise them about how they should go, what direction they should go. So it's not a decision they have to make right now. They don't have to make any decision about it. Just you and I are just talking.
All right, excellent. So when someone makes a decision they want to syndicate, who do they need to get in contact with besides yourself, and what is that process to syndicate? Let's say they're going to do it, under an exempt status.
Well, let's put it like this. Most people would typically just call an attorney and say, hey, I want to syndicate something. You don't call a garden variety attorney. This is not the same attorney that does your will or does whatever else attorneys do for you. This isn't the same kind of attorney. This is a specialty attorney called a securities attorney. Now, there are regular attorneys that do this kind of work, and it doesn't usually work out that great. But you want to go to a specialist, and these specialists are not people you generally find in the yellow pages. I mean, they're specialty people. And here's the thing: is I wouldn't even just go to an attorney. Personally, you need to have an attorney do this, but attorneys are not going to be able to give you the business advice around the deal that you need. And here's what you need to know, because the majority of these issues are not really legal issues. The majority of them are business issues. Like, how much should I pay the investors? How much fees should I take? How should we structure the payout to the investors? None of these are legal questions. Now, they need to be written down in a legal way, but the vast majority of issues are not legal issues. And what's going to happen is that if you just call the attorney is going to give you a bunch of advice on what to do, and that may or may not be in your best interest. And it's not that they're not doing the best job they can. It's that sometimes they step out of their box and they give advice on things that they're not really experts in. So the way we do it, first, we want people to come to our symposium. If you're interested in this, even if you're just curious about it, if you're not quite there yet, we want people to come and listen and learn and understand how this business works. It's an awesome business. This business, people, one of the things people always wonder is this something that a lot of people in America know about? I mean, is this a popular business? Let me just tell you this, Lance, you may be surprised to hear this, that the private placement business, in other words, the sale of private securities, this whole secret area that we're talking about that most people have never even heard of, because it really only applies to the top 3% of Americans, which is about 10 million people. The market for the sale of these securities is bigger than the entire United States stock market. It's bigger.
Whoa.
Yeah. And guess why it's bigger? Guess why? Guess what assets held this way? That almost all of it in this country is held this way. Guess what it is?
It's got to be real estate.
It's real estate. Almost all the real estate in the country is held this way by wealthy people, and so all the wealthy people understand how this works. They like it. They like this format, because they get paid a certain way. The attorneys, the accountants, they all learned the system when they went to college. They all understand how it works. So number one, you don't want to make up your own system, because these attorneys and accountants have all learned how the system works. And if you start making up your own terms, like, okay, first I'm going to pay you $1, then I'm going to take $5, then you're going to get $22 back, and you start doing something crazy like that, making up your own terms and all this stuff, and the attorneys and accountants are just going to shake their heads and say, I don't understand what this guy's doing. I think we'll just pass on this deal. And that's so you want to follow the industry standard. You want to do it the industry way. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure you're getting good business advice, you're getting good legal advice. You need to get everything well organized. And when you do a good job, it goes your way for sure.
All right, listen, I got a couple more questions here, but you've mentioned your symposium a couple of times. Give a plug for it. What's the name of your symposium, Joel?
It's the Syndication Hedge Fund Symposium. We're going to be in Las Vegas in October, the end of October, the 27th to the 30th. If people want to get into our flow, they want to get into our information flow, even if you're not quite there yet, if you want to just kind of get a sense about how this works, we release these videos twice a week. People write into us, Lance, and they say, hey, Joel, how does the banking work, like in a syndication fund? Or how do you find investors? Or how do you network with people? Or how do you do this? We answer questions. We've got over 100 little videos in our library. And if your people want them, we'll give them to them for free. All they have to do, open their cell phone, open the texting app, the regular texting app, and put in the number 72,000. And put then the word, in the message area, put in the word asset, ASSET. So send the word asset to 72,000. That's a 72 with 3 zeros. And then you'll be in our flow. You'll get some videos from us. And, and starting tomorrow, you'll start seeing videos on what it is that we do and everything else.
All right, so everyone, text. So you're going to send a text. The number is 72,000 that you're texting to, and the word you want to put in your message is asset, ASSET. And you want to get in the flow of Joel's. We talk about here. They're great videos. They answer most frequently asked questions. We're only scratching the surface here in today's session. All right, so a couple more questions here, Joel. And by the way, for anybody who's watching live, you're in the live version here. Go ahead. If you have a question, if you want to have me submit to Joel, go to the chat box and type in your question. There in the control screen, upper right-hand corner, send your question in, type it up, and I'll be happy to relay it to Joel. Joel, we're talking about syndication. Let's say you've got your securities attorney identified. You know what you want to do, how you want to structure your return. How much time does it take to create a syndication, to put the paperwork together, let's say?
Well,
before you find investors, how long does that take?
Let's put it like this. If you have every single question that the attorney needs already answered, I don't know how long an attorney takes. I would say a couple of weeks to a month. Maybe it go that fast. I typically find that it takes a couple of months or a little longer, because I tend to ask people questions that are very hard. They're simple questions that you have to really sleep on. So they kind of are hard. Like, for example, what kind of fees do you want to take? How do you want to take your fees? How do you want to get paid? How much return do you want to give the investors? How much do you want to keep? How much do you want to give? How do you want it to work? And we show people what the choices are. And then once they know what the choices are, what kind of all the different industry standard options are, then we can let them go on their own and kind of think about what they want to do, come back to us, and then we help them write it up. And, I'd say 80% kind of go with our rhythm, but there are a handful of people, maybe a little more than 20%, maybe it's 30, 35% will come back and say, I want to do something a little bit different. Not a lot different. We try to keep them inside some lanes, because what we don't want is for the readers to get, put off by the fact that it's really, by they're doing something that's kind of weird. So we try to do that, but that's what we try to do. So I'd say a couple of months, to a little bit longer is the typical.
All right, fair enough. And for someone that's getting started, you've been doing this for so long, you've seen so many of these, is there a single biggest mistake that you would advise people, or maybe the top 3 biggest mistakes that you would advise against for people getting started?
Well, there's a couple things, and this assumes, when you do it with somebody like us who kind of goes through this process with you, a lot of these mistakes don't get made. But let's say you're just going to do it by yourself. Number one, you may end up with deal terms that are unfriendly. This is one of the worst things that could possibly happen. And I don't mean to rag on attorneys here, because they don't do this on purpose, and they do their very best. But sometimes their job is to advocate for you, the client, and they want to give you the best deal you can possibly get. But here's the thing: you really need to advocate for the deal, because if you write terms that are too ridiculous and too one-sided, investors are not going to say yes and give you their money. So I've had situations where attorneys have written these things that say, okay, the promoter gets this and this and this and this and this. I mean, the promoter is the syndicator, gets all these different things, and the investor is lucky to get anything, and then nobody wants to put any money in. And so the investors end up saying no, and the promoter doesn't get any money, and so that's a really big problem. Is you have to create deal terms that investors can say yes. And those are called investor-friendly terms. You want to be very careful to create investor-friendly terms. Another thing is people frequently, they have to kind of start networking with some potential investors in advance, and they have to start kind of creating lists of people. So when we start this process, we tell people to start getting organized and start looking for investors and start making lists of people, and that helps them to go faster when they finally get their documents. And maybe a third thing would be, I just had something on the tip of my tongue here, just escaped me. So we'll have to come back to it.
Okay.
But let me promise you, it was a really, really good one. Just so you know.
The meaning of life, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was a big one. It'll come back here in a minute. So.
Hopefully we'll tickle it here in a minute. So I got one more question, then we're going to open it up for some other questions from our listeners. So if you're on here for the live session, you got some questions you want to submit to Joel and relay it to him, here's what I want you to do. Go to the chat box, that's the box in the upper right-hand corner, and type your question and send it to me, and I'll relay it to Joel here. This is on the live. Of course, if you're in the recording, you're not going to be able to do this. So here's my final question is, and I see some questions coming in now. Here's my final question, Joel, is so people have heard this, or people maybe have heard about this. What holds people back from doing this, do you think? What holds them back?
Well, one of the most enormous misconceptions is that I can get the money cheaper some other way. And what people don't realize is it's not just, well, my interest rate's lower. It's not just the interest rate, it's the quality of the capital. So there might be an interest rate, there might be points, there might be renewal fees or renewal points if it's a hard money type deal. There may be, that people don't say yes all the time, or they may be that people aren't ready, the money's not ready, and you can't count on it. Remember this, if you lock up a deal and something goes wrong and you don't have the money, doesn't come together, you're on the hook for the deposit or whatever. So those are all big problems. And also, if the whole thing just falls apart, it could be very embarrassing to you. So all these things are very significant, and you want to make sure that the quality of the capital is really, really good. And so when you're dealing with hard money, the quality of that capital is really rather poor, because you don't have a lot of discretion, you don't have a lot of flexibility, and that really is going to hamper the growth of your business. The other thing is that you're not going to be getting ongoing revenue. You're only going to get your money in the back. We think about money and fees in two different ways. You get paid two different ways in these deals. First, you get paid for being smart. Now, everybody's used to getting paid for being smart. And what that means is you pick a property that has really good value on the back end, you sell it, and you make some money. That's your payment for being smart. But here's the other thing is that you want to get paid for being for your time, because you're investing a lot of energy in this deal. And if you're dealing with a hard money lender or private money lender, they're not going to let you take money off the top for your time. They're going to make you take all the money off the back end, which is the same way that they're getting paid. And that's really kind of how that works. So you want to, the reason that there's so much cash flow and this is such a better way of doing it, it's not just, well, I get a better return. It looks like I get 50-50 with my, with my hard money lender. But you got to look at the aggregate of the whole cost of the capital structure and how you're getting your money. And you got to remember also, a lot of hard money loans are made with the deliberate intention of you going bankrupt. When they underwrite those properties, they're thinking to themselves, there's a good chance I'm going to get this property back. Do I want the property? In a syndication environment, people are not hoping that you go broke, because they need you. They need you badly. I mean, they want you to run their business. They want to give you more money. They want to give you referrals. They want you to, they hope you're successful. I mean, it's a big difference between these businesses. And, you have to do a good job running the business, but people are not rooting for you to fail like they are in a hard money environment. So there's a lot of differences, and probably one of the biggest mistakes people make, or misconceptions about it, is that on the face, the profit sharing might look better in a different kind of deal. But let me just promise you, Wall Street would not do it this way if your way was better.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We've got some questions coming in, and first of all, you have not yet done this. I want you to get your cell phone out, and I want you to get in the flow of Joel's free videos he has. So you get your cell phone, you're going to text to this phone number, 72000, 72,000, and the word you put in the message box is the word asset. You're going to text asset to 72,000. And by the way, I'm going to put this in the show notes as well for those of you that may be listening to the recording. And those show notes are always found at greenlightreinvesting.com, greenlightreinvesting.com. Hey, Joel, I got a few questions. Are you up to answering some questions?
Yep.
From our listeners?
Yep.
All right. I've got the first one here, and I've got a number that kind of along this thread, this theme. Basically, it said, I don't have good credit. Can I do this?
This has nothing to do with credit. At least it's not the kind of credit that credit bureaus monitor. What's being monitored are investors are looking at you saying, do you have the ability to do what you said you're going to do? Do you have the ability to get some investors to put in some money? Do you have the ability to close in the transaction and not screw it up? Do you have the ability to rehab the property the way you planned and the way you promised according to that business plan? Do you have the ability to sell the property and get the money back? Do you have the ability to keep some records so that we all get what we're supposed to get? That's what they're looking. They're looking at business issues. This is a business transaction. It's not a financial transaction like when you're borrowing money from a bank. So this is one of the giant reasons that people just love this business. Is people who are in the deal business, Lance, like us, have nicks and bumps on our credit. It's 100%. And here's the other thing is, if you go to a bank and borrow money, they're going to put it on your credit. And then you go to a bank, you borrow another one, you go to the bank, they're going to put it on your credit. And after a while, you're piled up with too much credit, and the bank is going to say, we're not loaning you any more money. You've just got too much credit. So people that have very active credit reports, it's kind of an unfair thing for entrepreneurial people, because entrepreneurs have to borrow money in their own name, whereas a corporation, you work for a company, it never hits your personal credit, so you're never affected. You don't get, it doesn't say, well, gee, this person's got 500 grand out. That's too much. And so this business is not related to credit in any way.
All right, excellent, very good, very good. Here's another one that came around.
But it's related to your character, not your credit. Your character needs to be good. So
they have to trust you with their money.
Yes.
All right, so I got another one here, a theme that came in. This isn't so much a question, kind of a comment. Said, but I don't know any rich people, which I kind of, let's extrapolate from that.
Well,
they're thinking they can't approach anybody.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. I would ask that person, do you know any hard money lenders, any private money lenders? And they're going to say yes. And the reason that they know them is because that's what they're looking for. Think about this for a second. That's what they're looking for. So when you go to a meetup or some kind of a RIA meeting or some kind of a deal, that person, stands up, or you're as you're looking across the room, you're looking for that. You're not looking for rich people. Now, think about this. You have to distinguish between these active investors and passive investors. So we call everybody an investor. I don't do it that way. That's what a lot of people refer to. But an active investor is somebody who buys the real estate. That's us, the promoter, syndicator, the deal makers. We're active people. And we're looking for passive people who just are sitting around wanting to make their money work as hard as they do all day long. That could be a doctor, a lawyer, or anybody else. So here's another way. I don't know how often you all see yellow cars driving on the freeway, probably not that often. But if I said to you, I want you to look for yellow cars, you're going to start seeing a yellow car every single day because you're looking for it. They're out there. You're just not looking for them. And so that's exactly the same as this. These wealthy people, where are they? They're everywhere. They're in elevators, escalators. They're in stores. They're in restaurants, bars. They're everywhere that you go, but you're not looking for them, and you don't have a story to tell them. So if you had a syndication project or a fund, or you had something that was ready to go, and you bumped into somebody and you said, hey, how you doing? I'm doing good. What are you doing? Well, you know what? I'm putting together a fund. We're buying a bunch of real estate. And a wealthy person's ear is going to perk up and say, really? What exactly are you buying? And then, the conversation begins. And the reason you don't know anybody is because you don't have anybody on your radar, and you're not having the right kind of conversation. But once you do, all of a sudden, everything starts to change.
That's excellent advice. That's very good. That's very good. Because I guess can tell you the mindset of people, I think, as well. It's just all the money's, there's no shortage of money, is there, Joel, when it comes to funding these things?
I mean, it's, why are some people successful and other people are not? Well, you can make excuses. Well, I don't know anybody. And, I'm like, just like poor old me. You know what? If you had the right organization, all of a sudden, you're going to find out that the world starts to organize around you. But you got to take some steps to get organized. And that, right now you're not organized.
Perfect. Now I've got one final question, which is actually that last statement was a great segue. So before I do this last question, here's what I want everyone to do that's listening right now, whether you're doing live or you're listening to this recording. You're going to get out your cell phone. You're going to text the word asset to the number 72,000. 72,000 is the number you're messaging to, and the message is going to say asset. When you do that, it's going to put you in the flow of Joel's videos, addresses most frequently asked questions and answers most frequently asked questions in the whole world of syndication. And this is going to be a game changer for you. And I haven't heard anyone explain it as simply and as elegantly as Joel's done. And so you've only got the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Joel's wisdom and knowledge here. So Joel, let's call this the final question. And it comes across as this: how do I get started?
Well, listen, you can either jump in the pool or you can take some swimming lessons. and what I would tell you is that if you're saying, gee, this is something I probably want to do, what do I do next? I would tell you, come to the symposium, meet other people who are syndicating, meet some of our alumni that have already done syndications, that have already built these things or just getting them finished, and kind of start to circulate with people who are doing exactly this. It's the same thing as the person asked the question before, that they don't know wealthy people. Bottom line is, you got to get yourself into the mix. You got to get in the flow. You have to kind of be around people who are doing the same thing, and then you start to become like those people. So I would tell them, number one, they should get on my calendar and we should talk about this. They should tell me what their level of experience is. And if they're right, I will tell them that, that the symposium will work for them. If they're not, then I'll tell them that too. And because they have to bring a certain amount of experience and, whatever. So if today's their first day on the job, this probably isn't the right thing. But if they've been doing it for a little while, Lance, if they're in your flow and they're good with you, they're probably going to work for us, because we have a lot of overlap. We have common clients and things like that. So if that's the first step, and then after they spend a couple of days learning about how this works, they'll say, you know what, this works for me great, or I need to postpone for a little while, or this isn't for me at all, or whatever their outcome is. They will tremendously understand an aspect of the real estate business that mystifies most people. And once you start to understand it, and believe me, you will be better off.
That is excellent. And I'm telling you, guys, I want you to take advantage of this. If you're at that point where you want to move up in a game changer, get plugged in with Joel Block. And because he's exactly right. We have common clients, we have overlap in what we do. And he wouldn't be on here if he wasn't the real deal. And I've checked him out, and the feedback I hear is phenomenal. So you want to check this man out. And so, get involved with this free flow of training. You want to take your cell phone, text the word asset to the number 72000. That's the number 72,000. Text asset and start getting his video trainings. You can get to one of his symposiums if that's right for you. By all means, I encourage you to do that. Joel, this has been fantastic, spectacular. I want to thank you for all the great work you're doing and for your time today. Are there any, before we wind up here, and let me say this to everyone, by the way, the show notes, we'll be publishing the show notes on this great interview at greenlightreinvesting.com, greenlightreinvesting.com, and you get the show notes, get the recording, as well as access to other free resources and other great interviews. Before we part here, Joel, any final parting words or bits of wisdom you would share with people listening to this podcast?
Well, listen, I would say that if you really want to turn your real estate investing into a business, then you have to take your money to the next level. And to put it like this is something that a lot of people don't really understand. And that is that the money in real estate is not made in the real estate. The profit doesn't come from the real estate. It comes from the money. And when you control the money, you can buy all the real estate you want and generate all the profit that you want. So the more capital you control, the more deals you can do and the more stuff you can make happen. And let me just put it like this. We've had about 1,000 people come through our symposium. We've probably spawned 75 funds and 150 or more syndications. And some of these guys who originally, there was a guy, I didn't think he could sell ice, ice to a guy in the desert. Honestly, I mean, there are people that just really, you wouldn't think could sell anything. And some of those people turn out to be the best money raisers because they're just so understated, rational, and they're just good at what they do. And they develop a following and people like them. This is not something that happens in 15 minutes, but if you do it right, this is a business you could be in for a long time and make a lot of dough. And that's really a cool thing about it. So I hope that people will, if it works for them, I hope they'll get involved with us.
Excellent. So everyone, one last time, text the word asset, ASSET, to the number 72000 at 72,000 and get in the flow of Joel Block and everything he's teaching and his great wisdom with regards to syndications, and take your business to the next level, not just for real estate, for a number of ways with your syndications. All right, so this has been a session of Greenlight REI. Thank you so much, Joel Block. And for everyone out there, until the next session, go out and make your lifestyle a successful real estate one. So our next session, take care, everyone. Goodbye.
You've been listening to The Expert with Lance Edwards. Let us now blatantly and shamelessly bribe you toward creating your own real estate lifestyle by offering you a whole bunch of free stuff. Go to greenlightreinvesting.com and get you some free stuff and this session's show notes.